Hi, this is Sandy from Spitfire's Customer Experience team, and in this video we're going to be taking a quick look at Woodwind evolutions. I'll do a quick tour of the interface, and then we'll look at each section in a little more detail. So starting in the top left, we have some information here about our system performance, and then we have some global settings for things like MIDI and volume, and then we have some options for MIDI and some settings for the plugin. Underneath this, we have a small button for collapsing and expanding the interface. We have our preset browser at the top, then our general controls, and then there are three different pages: our Evo Grid, our effects, and our signal mixer. At the very bottom of the interface, we have the keyboard displayed with different coloured ranges showing the different evolutions and how they're mapped. And in the bottom left corner, there's an info pane which will display information for whatever you're hovering the mouse over. So, starting in the top left, we have a little LED here, which is going to be solid green when the plugin is ready to use. It'll flash green and red when it's loading to memory. If you play whilst it's flashing, you might hear some unusual artifacts, so it's probably best to wait for that to be solid green before using the plugin. To the right of this, we have indicators for our CPU, disk, and memory, as well as the number of voices that we're currently using. And this button here will refresh the entire plugin. This can be useful if you have any hanging MIDI notes. On the right hand side at the top, we have a selector for the MIDI channel that we're going to use. The default is any MIDI channel. We also have global tune, pan, and master volume. On the far right here, we have MIDI settings and general global settings for the plugin. I'll come back to those at the end. Underneath this, we have our preset browser. You can navigate back and forth through the presets using these left and right arrows. And if you've made a preset and you'd like to save it, you can click on the floppy disk icon, give it a name, and hit save. If you want to browse the list of presets, simply click on the preset menu. You can scroll around on the right here through the list of presets. You can favourite a preset that you like by clicking on the star icon. If you click on this play icon, you can hear a preview of how that sounds. And hovering over this eye will tell you some more information about the particular preset. Over on the left-hand side, we have some tags, such as bright, or distorted, or intense. Clicking on these will allow us to filter down our preset list for the ones that we're looking for. There's also a user tag here, so you can find your own presets. If you'd like to clear the tags, simply click the clear button in the top left. Once you want to load a preset, you can select it and click load, or simply double-click on the name. Underneath our preset browser, we have our general controls. These are expression, dynamics, and the knob. Expression is just a simple volume control, and that's assigned to MIDI CC number 11. In most Spitfire libraries, the dynamics fader will crossfade between the different dynamic layers. Due to the way the evolutions are recorded though, the dynamics fader is also just a simple volume control. It's on MIDI CC 1, which is the modulation wheel on most keyboards. For the knob, you can click in the centre of this button to find out what's assigned and change the assignment to one of the other controls. And you can click and drag to adjust. You can also hover and scroll to adjust. Any of these controls can be right-clicked or control-clicked on Windows, and you can learn a new MIDI automation or remove the existing MIDI CC assignment. Underneath our general controls, we have these three different views. The most important is probably the Evo Grid. This is where you can make the different assignments for the evolutions. Along the bottom of the Evo Grid, we can see the different note centers. These are arranged from low to high, just like the keyboard. And then on the left-hand side here on the y-axis, we have all of the different numbered evolutions. You can scroll up to see more, and you can see them categorized into the 4 different categories. To assign an evolution to a note range, simply click on the circle and you'll see it light up. You'll also see, as I click them, that the colours on the keyboard change to correspond. If you hold Command and click on an evolution, that will assign that evolution to the entire range. If you hold Shift and click on an evolution, it will draw a straight line from the last one you clicked. To the left of the Evo Grid, we have some buttons for randomizing. Feeling Lucky will randomize within all of the evolutions available. Clicking Pitch or Light will randomize within those categories. Clicking Woods or Reeds will use only the Woods or Reeds evolutions, such as Light Reeds or Pitch Reeds. And then we can also randomize within a single category. The 4 categories are Light Woods, Light Reeds, Pitch Woods, and Pitch Reeds. The last two are a little bit different. We have a visible which will randomize within all of the evolutions we can currently see. So right now, that's between 17 and 32. And walk will move all of the evolutions up and down by 1 step. To the right of the evil grid, we have 3 other controls for each evolution. We have a checkbox for the effects. This will decide whether or not that particular evolution gets sent to the effects, such as our tape saturation, our delay, and our reverb. We also have a volume trim for each evolution. This can be useful if you've got 2 different evolutions that are quite different in volume and you want to balance them. And we also have a pan for panning left and right. Clicking here will switch over to the effects. We have tape saturation, delay, and reverb, each with a main control. And then under the main control, each of them has some different controls which will change their timbre, such as warmth for tape saturation or dampening for delay. Just like the general controls above, if you right-click or control-click, you can learn a MIDI assignment. The third and final view here is our signal mixer. This is where you can adjust the different signals, such as close, distorted, or ambient. Simply click and drag to adjust the volume. Adjusting the fader to 0 will unload that signal from memory, and dragging it up from 0 will load it to memory. If you'd like, you can also use the toggles underneath to enable or disable a signal. There are 6 signals in Woodwind evolutions. Using these arrows, you can see the other 2. If you find a combination of signals that you like and you'd like to save it, you can click on this Save Mix Preset button, give it a name, and hit Save. And then you can load them by clicking on the Load preset, choosing that preset, and hitting Load. Just like all the other controls, you can right-click or control-click to see the current assignment and learn a new one. To the right-hand side of our signals, we have the controls for our ADSR volume envelope and a variation fader for slightly altering the sound of the evolutions. These are covered in the user manual, so I won't go into too much depth, but just like all the other controls, you can right-click or control-click to learn or make any new MIDI assignments. If you've made some changes to the signal mixer and you don't want them to be changed, you can click on this padlock to lock the mixer. Clicking again will unlock. Finally, up in the top right, we have some global MIDI controls where we can adjust our velocity response, as well as resetting or completely clearing our CC mappings for the plugin. And finally here, we have our global settings button. Clicking this will open a window where we can adjust the different settings for the plugin. The first tab here in general allows us to copy the settings we make here to all of our other Spitfire products. This means that you could have consistent settings if you have more than one Spitfire dedicated plugin, such as Hans Zimmer Strings or Angular String Evolutions. Underneath General, we have Interface. Here we can disable and enable the help text in the bottom left of the window. We can choose whether the default size of the instrument is the collapsed or expanded view. We can also set and get the default scale. And then we have some other options at the bottom here. Automatic unload with mixer fader, which is enabled by default, means that the signals will unload from memory when their faders are set to 0. If you disable this, they'll remain loaded in memory, even if you set the fader to 0. I'm going to leave that enabled for now. We can also adjust whether we want the gain units to be displayed in decibels rather than as a percentage. And this is where we'll find the option to disable host automation. This can be useful if your DAW has some kind of conflict between host automation and MIDI, and this way you can disable host automation and just use MIDI. Under Interface, we have our audio settings for maximum voices, preload buffer size, and stream buffer size. I would recommend leaving these well alone unless you're troubleshooting a performance issue. The fourth and final category here is Plugin. This is where we can choose the default preset. If I click on the name of the preset, you can see a list of the available presets and choose one. And this will be the default when we open the plugin. If we want to save the changes we've made, we can click the Save button here, or we can discard them by clicking Cancel. Last but not least, we have an About section where you can find out more about our end user license agreement, any other acknowledgements, and other licensing information. That's it for our tour of Woodwind Evolutions. If you've got any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out at spitfireaudio.com/support. Thank you.